Hi everyone, this is Faded Angelos here, coming at you with another build guide video for Torchlight Infinite. This one is my Sentry build with Gemma as the character to use the hero traits with. So for this build, you do get about, at least where I'm sitting at, about 3 to 4 million DPS. This is enough to get you to Time Mark 6 and farm pretty reasonably with this, and you can make upgrades to this build. I'm not completely fleshed out all the gear for this. So um, you will be able to do scaling with things like strength and intelligence, as well as you can also use area damage and skill radius, and that will affect your sentries as well and boost up all of your damage in that aspect too. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the skills that I'm using. So we're going to start off with Flame Pillar. This will be your major DPS. As you can see, it says it's about 16,000 DPS. Don't let this fool you. This is actually a lot stronger than it's showing. You're going to run Multifaceted Guard, uh, because you will be able to throw out 3 sentries at once with this skill. Yeah, you get a damage reduction for it, but because you're going to have so many max sentries, you want this ability to make sure you're not spending all your time just casting these out. Next is Fire Explosion, because you get additional damage as well as ignite damage. It's just an overall damage multiplier. You want flat damage, so to complement all of the multiplicative damage we have. So uh, added fire damage will help immensely. Then Sentry Modification, and these plus one more sentries that can be deployed at a time by the supported skill, and then you get 18% cast frequency. You can also just try using Sentry Modification by itself without Multifaceted Guard. I just like having to make sure that I can pull out as many of the turrets as I possibly need to, um, so that way you don't have to take damage reduction here, but that's completely up to you. This is just the way it feels comfortable for me. And then for the final one, fire penetration, because this will be doing nothing but fire damage. Well, I take that back. It will be doing some cold damage too because of hero traits. However, this is mainly fire damage as the main damage, so this will greatly help your DPS as well. Then the second sentry we're going to run is Ice Bond. And in case you guys don't know what Ice Bond does, because Flame Pillar is pretty self-explanatory. You throw down the sentry and it erupts a flame pillar at its location multiple times. The frequency will be determined on how high your sentry frequency is, as well as some modifiers that we will have traits for that I'll show you in a bit. The Ice Bond turret, however, is a little bit different. What it does is it links yourself to whatever turret you throw down, so you'll see a line connecting you. You need to position these turrets between you and the enemy, so that way they take all the damage because they need to be in that space for this to do damage to them. But you also get a buff, which gives you other skills deal additional cold damage to frostbitten enemies. So as long as they have the frostbite debuff on them, which you should have on them because this is a 100% chance to frostbite enemies, you are able to get added cold damage onto your flame pillar naturally with this. And then it obviously does more damage itself to uh, cold or more cold damage to frostbitten enemies as well. So that's just an overall added bonus there. So for this one, Sentry Modification, added cold damage, multifaceted guard, cold penetration, and then I used Focus Beam. So that way you had additional beam length and you also get additional damage for the skill. So that's what I'm using for those. I am still running a compound potion. However, once I get my regeneration leveled more, I will be dropping this compound potion probably for a mobility skill. So right now I'm just running around naturally. I'm not actually using a mobility skill with this. And then I'm also using Thunderlight Field. Now this one, its allies' attack triggers Lucky when within the field and deals additional lightning damage during according to the damage dealt to enemies. So it does 6.7% of hit damage as lightning damage on hit. This actually does affect your turrets because they do hit. So, there's your Sentry, sorry. So they do hit. So this actually does affect their damage. I have tested this with the dummy in there. It does affect the Icebond turret, as well as the Flame Pillar. So throwing this down is just added bonus. I have uh, supported it with these two as well as added area, so that way the field that they throw down is um, covering enough so where this will always be in effect. The curse I'm running is Elemental Destruction because we are running Flame Pillar and Ice Bond as our two main damage dealing abilities. So you're going to want more than just one of those reductions. So I'm running Elemental Destruction for that. And then Abysmal Hatred to buff that. And then I am running Spirits in this build, so I went with Frost Spirit because I needed the mana regeneration, and Thunder Spirit for the attack and cast speed. We'll need the cast speed a lot because we'll have a trait later that converts that or has 80% of that attribute to the frequency cast speed of the turrets. Then we're also running Elemental Amplification, which this does affect your turrets. I did test this. I know when I was leveling it, it didn't seem like it was moving the damage meter at all, but it does actually affect it. I just needed to make sure that they had the icon of the elemental amplification under them. You'll be able to see the aura effect of what's affecting them, the sentries, when they're deployed under them. Once this is under them, it does affect them. And then rejuvenation, I'm still leveling. It's only level 14. I plan to level this as high as possible and also couple it with regeneration traits that I'm getting off the tree, the trait trees, so that way I can just drop my compound potion completely. And then the last one is Magical Source for more mana regeneration because we will need to throw out multiple turrets, maybe even overthrow them, because we need to make sure that we get our passive for the hero completely stacked so that way we can benefit from the bonus damage it gives us. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into the talent trees I'm taking. So you start off with God of Machines, and then you're going to grab damage right here because this does affect your turret damage. And then your Sentry skill, you're going to start branching on the lower half of this now. So it's going to be Sentry skill and duration. Then you're going to want Sentry critical strike rating. You want to grab this for strength and intelligence, and then this will be your scaling to keep scaling this build even further and make it go beyond what I even have. Because I'm not really looking for the attributes at the moment, but this would be how you just continue to scale attributes for it. So 50 strength is 1 sentry damage, 1% more sentry damage, and 15 intelligence is 1 more frequency cast. So you want to keep coupling those together to make sure that you do capitalize on this as much as possible. And then you are going to grab this, Sentry damage, cooldown recovery. This will help with your Icebond turrets to make sure you can throw the max amount of them out. And then max Sentry skill charges. And then you are going to want to revisit this to pick up the Sentry skill cast frequency once you have Alchemist completely maxed out. Next, you're going to go, oh, sorry. And then up here, you're going to grab Sentry for the max quantity and then 100% cast speed so that you instantaneously throw them out and you don't have to worry about casting. And then you're going to want to grab Overly Modified, which gives you 35% additional Sentry damage, but lowers your damage for any other skill, which you won't be using any other skills. So there's no downside. Okay. And then for here, you're going to start down here and grab Sentry damage again. You're going to grab cooldown recovery for the Sentry skills, critical strike rating, then more Sentry damage, and then it gives you Sentry skill radius here with the damage. That's really nice. And if you aren't able to continue on with Sentry damage to grab this, then just grab this armor, and this also gives you 8% elemental resistance, which will help with gearing. So you're going to go ahead and grab that. And then you grab both of these because this gives you a defensive layer every time you cast a Sentry skill. So you'll also get a barrier that's 20% of your max life and energy shield, absorbing 50% of the damage taken. So this will always be up because you'll always be throwing down sentries. You'll always be moving. You need this. And then movement speed, and then more movement speed with sentry damage while moving. You'll always be moving. So that's just a damage multiplier that's just a bonus. And then sentry skill cast frequency. You do get -4 additional sentry damage here, but with the skill frequency increase, it's really worth it to grab more damage, and then +1 more sentries that can be deployed at this time. So when you get to this point, you can think about dropping the multifaceted guard, I believe, that reduces your damage but deploys more at a time. Because mechanical modification should allow you to just go ahead and throw out enough turrets or enough sentries at a time. But I have both of them because I just want to make sure. I do believe you throw out, if you cast it and you go over 3, I believe you do throw out 2 sets, or at least like up to 5 at a time. That is going to need testing because I do notice that when you cast a sentry skill and you have all of those equipped, it does proc twice off one cast. However, they spawn at the same spot, so it's really hard to tell if you've actually casted more than 3 or if it's just kind of like a glitch in the system. So the abilities you're going to use is Heat Up. So 40% additional damage of sentry skill has not been used in the last 1 second. So when you reach max sentries, you're just going to want to stop casting so you get 40% damage buff increase. And then 80%, this is the trait I was talking about, 80% of effects on cast speed is also applied to sentry cast frequency. So you're going to want to look for gear that has not only strength and intelligence, but also cast speed to increase the speed of your sentries to make sure they are constantly going off. And then you're running Alchemist for the last one if you're following this build. You're going to grab the damage here because that affects your turrets. The minion life, you're just grabbing that mostly for your life, since your spirits won't necessarily really die that often. You don't need to worry about that. This is for your cast speed to boost that up. And then if you can't reach all the way over here yet, grab these regeneration nodes. And then you're going to grab movement speed and movement speed again for nearby. Minions nearby gives you movement speed. You only get 4% from that, but I mean, it's good. And then you're going to start grabbing Spirit Magus Effect. You're not going to actually continue onward with that. You're just going to grab Spirit Magus Effect. You can grab Max Life here. Max Energy Shield, because you will have some Energy Shield, so you can grab that. And since you will have a barrier, you can also grab Barrier Absorption here. And then you can grab this Armor and Barrier Absorption. And then Life Regeneration Speed right there. So, and that should get you up to 36. And then you'll grab, from that point, you will grab right here, active superflux, because you should have more than enough mana regeneration. Overflown mana regeneration applied to life regenerates 3% mana per second. That's kind of like back and forth. So I'm assuming what this is saying is that life regeneration, if it's overflowing, then you regenerates your 3% of your mana per second. So you would grab that just as to keep your mana topped off. You can also grab the minion attack and cast speed. However, you're not really necessarily minion focused, so you may not really want that unless you have trouble keeping mark with your minions on there, because I am supporting the spirits with mark to increase critical hit damage as well as lower their evasion. So, okay. And then let's go with the hero traits we're running. So your main skill is Ice and Fire Radiance. So this gives you fusion energy. What fusion energy is it's the bar over in the bottom right. You will go ahead and keep casting fire and ice skills till that gets capped out. When it gets capped out, you go into what's called where is it? Crossfire Rampage. So what Crossfire Rampage is it will increase your fusion energy effect by 8%, which fusion energy will it deals fire damage bonuses are applied to cold damage, and cold damage bonuses are applied to fire damage. So you're going to get a synergistic effect between both your ice bond turrets and your fire pillars, as long as you have this maxed out. And then for here, we're also getting 2 more fusion energy and 50% fusion energy effect at max fusion energy. That will increase this bonus even further to cap out your DPS. I was doing this whenever cold damage has been done recently. Damage dealt to this enemy ignores fire resistance and vice versa. However, I don't think that really works too well because you're going to be doing both at the same time, and I don't think it actually allows both to go ahead and be ignored. I think it's going to just swap between the two on hit, which may still work, but it doesn't sound like it would work too well. So I'd rather get the bonuses here, and since we're running a curse that reduces their elemental resistance overall, we don't need to ignore it. We already have penetration on top of elemental resistance down because of the curse, so we don't need to ignore it all together. So while Frostfire Rampage is active, fusion energy does not deplete. 10%, and then you're going to grab Restless Fire. You have to. That's the only one on that node. 10% fire damage up to 4 seconds, up to 3 stacks when using or triggering a cold skill while Frostfire, and then it's vice versa for cold damage to fire. So you're going to get the benefit from this without really even having to think about it. And then you do get to finally choose again between them. This is for ailments, and this is for actual damage. You're going to go with the actual damage because that's 1.5 additional fire damage and cold damage for every point of fusion energy. And since we have 3 here and 2 here, that's 5 on top of the 4 that you start off baseline, because you can have up to 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then you just go ahead and it looks like if you go over the cap, I didn't even read that. If you go over, if there's more than 4 energy, the depletion time is 1 second. So if you go over the cap of 4, which we have increased that cap, it will deplete a lot faster. So it's an upkeep thing, but you're going to be casting so many flame pillars and ice bonds sentries that you don't need to really worry about it. And then for the final one, fusion energy is no longer removed at the end of Ice Fire Rampage. When dealing damage at max fusion energy, lightning damage bonuses and additional bonus are applied to cold damage. Fire damage. So this is if you have any lightning damage, which the lightning field turrets really aren't worth it. Okay, so while Frostfire Rampage is active, Cold Penetration is also applied to fire resistance while Frostfire Rampage. Fire Penetration is also applied to cold resistance, okay. When enemies take fire damage, the lowest cold resistance, fire resistance, and lightning resistance will be treated as their current... Okay. So... You might want to grab Extreme Fusion anyways, because no, I would grab Seeping In, because just in case there are some enemies that have increased resistances, even if you reduce their resistances with elemental weakness, it doesn't necessarily mean they're all going to be equal across the board. So you would grab Seeping In just for more penetration. Also, I am looking for better better hero relics than this, but right now this gives me fire damage and fire resistance. I'm looking for better ones, but these are what I'm running for my hero memories. And they're not too impressive, but they do boost my damage up a little bit. This is the things I'm looking for, is this attribute right here. For fire and damage attacks and spells while Frostfire Rampage is active, this would be really nice, because this will just overall boost your DPS no matter what. Okay, so now that that's that, we'll go into pack spirits really quick. What you're going to want is you're going to want increased elemental damage, elemental piercing, and cast speed. I only have one of these minions, so I am also running another one that supports Servant buff, which is Spirit Magus effect, and then the Drapion Lady, which gives Spirit Magus effect. So I'm running those two, and then you're just going to grab these. The damage nodes will affect the turrets, or the sentries, so you're going to want to grab those. And then you just want to grab everything defensive over here because it's really nice. 10% elemental resistance, 4% minus physical damage, and then minus damage taken altogether. Okay, so without further ado, I'll go ahead and show the DPS.
Please select the
and then we'll run through. Unfortunately, I don't have up to level 85. As you can see, 4 million DPS, highest DPS in 5 seconds, not too hard to get to. And then make sure you're moving as well. Want to make sure that you... And then... Oh, I do need to go over what gear is making this possible too. So as you can see, 4 million DPS, highest DPS in 5 seconds, average DPS is 2 mil. So there are a couple uniques that you will need to get, or legendaries you will need to get to make this possible. From there, you just need to switch out whatever you need. So you will need a Sage's Disciple. This will be overall amazing for you because you will have +7 sentries that can be deployed at a time. This is a huge damage boost, as well as critical strike, elemental damage. You're going to want this 14% intelligence, which, if you remember, that increases the cast frequency. So go ahead and make sure you get that. The next one you're going to want is Lethal Resonance, and that is cast frequency, max sentry quantity, gives you a little bit of erosion resistance, attack and spell critical strike rating, which will affect your sentries because they are a spell. And then the last one you're going to necessarily need is max sentry quantity here, sentry damage, 24% additional sentry cast frequency if no sentries were used within 2 seconds, which once you get your max out, you'll stop and just keep focus on moving around and keeping the curse up. Generally, your sentries will only last about 10 seconds, so shouldn't take you more than a couple seconds to throw out all of your turrets and then or sentries and then just keep moving. So those are the 3 that are going to be mandatory just to make sure you have the quality of life and damage you need to easily run what you want. Then from there, I'm running skill radius and area damage. These are area tagged, so they will affect from the area damage as well as they should affect from the skill radius. I did see that increase. And then I'm running this here because that's coupling with this for skill radius, so you get 30% increase and decrease of skill radius. This also applies to area damage, so that's just a bonus damage multiplier for you on top of increasing the skill radius there. These boots, don't worry about it, I'm just running them because they were leveling boots. I still have to swap those out, so you can get different boots there. Alright, let me go ahead and run really quick and show you how it works out. It's really not a bad clear or just moving in general. Probably do, because I'm only level 70. Well, why not? We'll do time art 6. That'll work. Okay. So we will go ahead and run through this. This is going to be your gameplay. You just run through, throw down your turrets, keep moving. So your sentries keep moving. Things behind you will die. Oh, I got hit by 2 different attacks right there. I was trying to keep my barrier up with the sentries. That was unfortunate. It hit me with not only the hit from that wide AoE, but also with the ice beam that goes around. As you can see, it's not too bad. And they're not level 20 yet, so you can actually still gain DPS from this and make this a lot more comfy. It doesn't take too long for things to die. This is going to be a build you want to do if you're really into totems and other ARPGs. If you really like that kind of playstyle, this one will be for you. That guy was kind of tanky, so I had to throw a curse on him. As you can see, what I was talking about earlier, when you have the same skill setup as I do, when you throw down the flame pillars, they pop up twice. I'm thinking because I'm throwing down more than 5 at a time. Or sorry, more than 3 at a time, because it only spawns 3. It's spawning the rest of them. If not, it's just an added effect that does nothing. Okay. Oh, high level. Let's go ahead and get Spirit Magic's effect. Okay, and then the boss will be up here soon. And it does actually, so it doesn't have to fly up all the numbers, it does actually calculate if it gets hit more than once at a time by multiple sentries. So in other words, if 3 different sentries cast at the same time, it won't sit there and show 3 different numbers for the hits. It will actually compile them all in one hit. So that's why you may not be seeing as many numbers as you think you'd see, but the damage is being calculated. Okay, and then let's go ahead and do a boss. This is going to be your boss gameplay. You're going to throw down all your turrets. Hopefully they don't move out of them like that. And at this point, just keep your... There you go. Once you have actually everything up and ready to go, then they just get deleted once you place the curse. So there you go. That's the Sentry Showcase. I wanted to show you guys what I've been working on. It is actually a lot more fun than my previous iterations of it, so I wanted to share it. If anybody likes this kind of playstyle, then hopefully they find it fun. If you did enjoy it, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you all in the next video. Take care.